Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. So I just made it home from the record store for Record Store Day. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience and the albums I picked up. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So the record store I typically go to for Record Store Day is one of the busier ones here in southeastern Michigan. And on a normal record store day, I typically make it out to the record store between midnight and 1 a.m., and I'm normally within, I'd say, the first, 3 to 5 in line. So my plan this year was to do what I typically do, which is leave the house around midnight. It's about a 45-minute drive to the record store. But this year, so on Friday, I worked a 12-hour shift, so I didn't get home until around 8 p.m. And then, I hung around with the family for a little while. So next thing I knew, it was like 10 o'clock. And my plan was to get home, sleep for a couple of hours, and then get up and leave at midnight. So next thing I knew, it was around 10 p.m., and I thought, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to get my stuff together and just drive to the record store. I ended up getting out there about 11:40, and to my surprise, there was already a dozen people in line. So that was the first thing I noticed right away, and it wasn't just the store I was at. The lines this year seem to be a lot longer, a lot bigger than they have been the last couple of years. And I didn't think this was a great record store day list this year, so I was a little surprised to see that many people out there that early. But there was nothing I wanted that was super limited this year, so I was okay where I was at in line. So the record store I go to, they do things a little different than a lot of other record stores. What they do is at 8 o'clock when the store opens, they hand out these wish lists. And you go through and you mark down the albums you want, take a little ticket, and then they pull the albums in order of the person that's in line. So if you're first in line, you're going to get everything on your list, which does take away some of the fun of going in and hunting for albums, but also stops you from having to fight over albums with other people in line, people jumping in front of other people to grab things. It takes some of that chaos out of the factor. And, if you're going to sit out there for 6, 8, 10, 12 hours, I think you should get what you're looking for. So when I first got to the record store this morning, I went out and put my chair on line. Like I said, it was around 11:40 when I got there. There was 11 or 12 people in front of me. At that point, what I typically do is just go sit out there and talk records, talk music all night. But I was exhausted at this point from working all day, so I decided to go sit in my car for a little while. I actually ended up falling asleep in my car and woke up around 3:30. Happened to look up, and there was at least 40 or 45 people in line at that point. But since my chair was holding my spot in line, I actually didn't get out of my car until about 20 minutes before the store opened. And by the time the doors opened at 8 a.m., there was at least 200 people in line at the record store. The line went all the way down the front of the building, around the corner and down the block. I'll put a video up on the screen here. It was a really long line. They typically have long lines for record store day at this store, but this was longer than I think it has been the last couple of years. But something interesting happened after I turned my slip in. I went and sat in my car because you had to wait till about 9 o'clock to have all your albums pulled. So I happened to hop on social media, and I was scrolling through Facebook, and the record store had posted that they had hidden 2 tickets to see Post Malone in the record store. So you had to hunt around through the record store to find these tickets. They did give you a hint. They said it was in a section with an artist that really was influential to Post Malone. So right away I knew that there was only a couple of options to pick from. I kind of had a feeling I knew where it would be. But at that point there was already a line forming for people to get into the record store to go pick up their album. So I had to go stand in line. There was at least 16 or 17 people ahead of me. I didn't really feel great about my chances. But to my surprise, when they started letting people into the store, a lot of people went and stood in line to go grab their RSD titles. Some people were kind of milling around through their regular selection. I went right to the Bob Dylan section because I knew Bob Dylan was very influential to Post Malone. And to my surprise, I started flipping through, found this copy of Highway 61 Revisited with the tickets on the front of it. So it was cool. It was something I wasn't expecting to get for record store day, but it was a little added bonus to my day. But that wasn't the only non-RSD title I picked up. I also grabbed my copy of Siamese Dream that I pre-ordered through the record store. It came out on Friday, but I waited till Saturday because I knew I was going to be there for record store day to grab a copy of it. But this is the first time in a long time it's been reissued with the original artwork. I heard the reviews for this aren't great, so I'm definitely interested to see how this compares to my 2011 reissue. And then for RSD titles, the first one, it was one that was definitely high up on my must-have list. And that was The Eternal Idol by Black Sabbath. This is the first album with Tony Martin on vocals. It was the one album that was excluded from the box set when it was released last year. And I know this is not a great album, but I'm a big Black Sabbath fan. It's one of the only albums from Sabbath that I didn't have in my collection. So, like I said, it was pretty high up on my list. But the hype sticker on this one says new remaster from the analog tapes, limited edition translucent ruby vinyl. It says limited edition. I think there was 7,000 copies of this one that was made. I think it was somewhere around there. But let me take the shrink wrap off this one. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but do you guys keep the hype sticker? Because sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. There's been times I've kept the hype sticker, peeled it off, put it on the outside of my the resealable sleeve I put the album in, and then 3, 4, 5 months later, I'm like, I don't like the look of the hype sticker on there. I peel it off and throw it away. So like I said, I go back and forth. This one isn't a great sticker, so I probably won't keep that one, but I'm like 50-50 probably on the Record Store Day hype stickers. But as far as the album goes, there's the front cover of it. I mean, the artwork looks great on here. There's the back cover. Sometimes these reissues, especially 80s albums, can be kind of blurry, but there's a nice crispness to that one. I think there's an insert in here also. Yeah, just printed. It says Black Sabbath. It's got the lyrics, credits on there. And look at that. Something I always complain about with records coming in paper sleeves. It's actually in a polyline sleeve. That's definitely a big bonus for me. And that's a really nice translucent red color there. So with the next album, I have to say that I'm a big Jethro Tull fan, but I'm definitely more of a 70s Jethro Tull fan than anything else from their career. I think after 79, after Stormwatch, I think there was a big steep decline in the quality from the band. So this is Songs from the Vault, 1975, 1978. So these are songs off of Minstrel in the Gallery, Too Old to Rock and Roll, Songs from the Wood, and Heavy Horses. These were all bonus tracks that were included in the CD deluxe versions of those albums that came out over the last decade or so. They were all new remixed, remastered by Steven Wilson. They sound great. I've got them all on CD. It's the first time they've been available on vinyl. But says Songs from the Vault includes rarities and outtakes, 2LP recycled black vinyl. That's what the hype sticker says on there. Definitely interested to see how the recycled vinyl. I know I've had issues with it. We'll see how this one sounds. This is on a gatefold also. So there's the front cover, just a shot of the band. Same thing on the back side there. And then it looks like on the inside is just a little blurb about all the songs on the album. It's on 2 LPs, comes in polyline sleeves. And the cool thing about this album, it is on black wax, but the pictures on the labels, there's 4 pictures on here. It looks like it's a picture from each one of the 4 albums. So to see a little more clearly, there's the picture for side 1. There's the picture for side 2. And this is side 3. And then side 4. And then this was the one I was going back and forth on. I decided to grab it. Thelonious Monk, Live at the It Club. So this was recorded in 64. It wasn't released, though, until the early 80s. Hype sticker on this one says double LP of Monk Live in 1964. Which is a lineup of the musicians on the album. Thelonious Monk is one of my favorite jazz musicians. So, if I was going to grab, I think this is really the only jazz title that came out for RSD that I was really interested in. It was a good price. It was less than $30 for a double LP. And it's also a double LP that is in a gatefold. So that's another little added bonus. Love the artwork on that one. It's the back cover. And then a picture on the inside of it. I do have to say that so far I'm pretty impressed because everything I've opened is at least in polyline sleeves, which I've been saying for a long time. If you're going to pay more than $30 for an album, that's like a bare minimum. Either that or some kind of printed inner sleeve. Stop, the labels, the bands need to stop using those paper sleeves because they end up just scuffing the albums up. It just ends up causing unneeded surface noise. But just on standard black wax. Then here's side 3 and side 4. That's one thing I will say is, as much as I love colored albums, when it comes to jazz albums need to be in black. I don't know why. It just, it kind of fits, I think, the aesthetic of the music. And then something else that's pretty high up on my want list this year for RSD is Post Malone's tribute to Nirvana. Has probably the most minimalist hype sticker on an RSD release I've seen this year. It says Post Malone tribute to Nirvana, good luck Mr. Malone, and then it has the RSD sticker over on the other side. And this is an album that I was a little surprised to see how much it's selling for on Discogs. Now, granted, yes, today is RSD, so everything's like super inflated today. With 17,000 copies of this available, to see this selling for like $70 on Discogs was a little surprising for me. But it's the front cover of it. There's the back cover. And then I think there is an insert in this one also. It just says, good luck, Mr. Malone, Post Malone tribute to Nirvana, a live session in 2020. And then on the back side, it just has credits and the track listing. And then the album itself is on, I'm not a fan of like solid, like opaque colors, but I think it would have looked better had it been on a translucent yellow, but I still like the color. It really matches the color on the front of the album. Another one that's pretty high up on my want list, I'm sure it was for a lot of other people out there, was Loco Alive by the Ramones. So this is there's two versions of this album. This is the US version released by Sire. This has a different track listing than the Chrysalis version. And this is the first time this one's ever been available on vinyl. I thought this had been available before, but I guess it was just the Chrysalis version that had been released. So this says Ramones live in Spain 1991. US version of their second live album on vinyl for the first time. 2 LP set on blue and red vinyl. There's the hype sticker up there. I will say, I wish they went back to the old days where RSD titles were numbered. I know a lot of them have gotten away from that, though. But so one of those little added bonuses that I would like to see return. I know it's been probably at least 5 or 6 years since a lot of albums stopped having that on there, though. And I've always assumed that there's some kind of conspiracy behind that where they can just press more albums than they say they do and still call it a limited edition. But that's the front cover there. The back cover, of course, this is on another gatefold. From the just picture from the show. So disc 1 is on blue. It's really pretty translucent blue. And then disc 2 is on red. One of them that I guess I was okay if I didn't grab a copy of it is Live in New Haven 1994 from the Stone Temple Pilots. Even though I love Purple, I love this era of the band. This is a great live show, but the hype sticker on this one says, Incendiary live show from the Purple Tour. Features performances of hits Vaseline, Plush, Interstate Love Song, and more. Available for the first time on 2 LPs and Purple vinyl, which I didn't think this was available on vinyl at all before. The hype sticker, though, makes me think it was available as a 1 LP release. I guess I'll have to go back and look at that, but there's the hype sticker on that one. I will say that the artwork on here is not very creative. They could have done something better. Like at least with Loco Live, there's like a live shot from the show. They could have done something similar for the artwork on this one to kind of separate it from Purple and Purple Rarities that came out last year. I don't know. Maybe I'm okay with the artwork on that one. But anyway, there's the front cover there. There's the back cover. And I do like that color purple. It's like a translucent-ish kind of purple, and they've got the inverse colors you see on the label, one side to the other. And then disc 2 is the same. I also think this is the first 2 LP release that I've opened today that's not on a gatefold, so that's kind of surprising. I don't know. For the money you spend on albums nowadays, if it's 2 LPs, it should be at least in a gatefold, especially when it comes to a live show, because you can just put pictures from the show on the inside of it. And then the last album is the only RSD first that I got. So I knew if I didn't grab a copy of it today, I would get a chance to get a copy later. This was, I think, also the most limited. There's only 1,000 copies of this one that were pressed. But it's the first time it's been available in 20 years, and that's Total by Teenage Bottlerocket. This is a band that took me a really long time to come around to. It wasn't until within the last several years that I got around to listening to their music. And then I started going back and looking at picking up copies of their albums on vinyl. And a lot of them have not been available in a long time, and they're super expensive. So I was glad to see this one get reissued. Like I said, if I didn't grab a copy of it now, this one is one that will get eventually reissued. You see that a little bit better with the shrink wrap off the cover. Here's the back cover on that one. And then this one, this has an insert also. It looks like it's just lyrics and some pictures. There's the lyrics and credits there. Pictures on that one, on that side. And then it comes in a printed inner sleeve. There's the printed inner. There's a Teenage Bottlerocket sticker in here also. Comes with a nice little sticker. And then this is on black and white vinyl, I believe. That's cool. Nice little split. I will say typically, I have had issues, not all the time, but I have had issues with some of these splits sometimes that there can be sometimes some surface noise where the two colors meet. Doesn't always happen. It's only happened to me a couple of times on releases. So I've been interested to see how this one sounds. What's all I got for you today, guys? Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know how your Record Store Day 2025 went. I had a great time, even though, most of the time I was standing in line. I was just sleeping in my car, but I got some great albums. Obviously, I wasn't expecting to get those Post Malone tickets. I did actually grab another album. I grabbed Wolves by Rise Against, just a standard reissue. The record store I went to was having a sale, so I grabbed this one also. And then my wife got an album from an artist I'd never heard of before. This is Wren, Violet's Tale. Not familiar with them at all. But yeah, I can't wait to clean all these up and get them a spin. But let me know what you guys grabbed and what your favorite albums were. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.